I definitely have a major trust in this initiative, and this is why I chose it as the name of our company as well. Even though the One Belt, One Road initiative is mainly based on infrastructural cooperation, which is a very important core part of it, but I also believe that without the mutual understanding between the peoples of these countries, without intercultural exchange, it's not going to be able to boost the exchange and deepen the interaction between the countries to the full potential. My goal was to seize this opportunity because people are interested in foreign cultures, and I wish to deliver this in an acceptable form by combining these two different cultural elements, because I think this is the best way to introduce something new to audience.
How do you plan to do that, to deepen the people-to-people exchange?
I think to deepen the mutual understanding, people-to-people relations between the peoples of these countries, the best way is to discover the melting points between cultures, and also to discover the differences, because they are just as interesting as the melting points. And I think even though these countries are, the Central and Eastern European region and China, they are very distant from each other as geographically, but there are so many similarities. And I think the very beauty of intercultural exchange is to discover these similarities.
What are the melting points between China and Hungary, and what are the differences?
For instance, as for Hungary and as for Hungarian classical music, we discovered that if we combine folk elements with classical music, and if we facilitate crossover genres, we can also add elements from both cultures, Chinese culture, traditional cultural elements, and also Hungarian traditional cultural elements.
Is there anything in common between these two?
Surprisingly, there is. For example, the pentatonic scale, which is the very base of folk music in Hungary, and also a lot of folk melodies from China. The ancestors of Hungarian people used to live in Asia. This might have been also one of the reasons why we have certain similarities between our culture.
You are a very popular singer as well, and you sing.
How do you know that?
And you sing very well in Chinese, even participating in one of the biggest, not one of the biggest gala events for the Chinese people, the Chinese Spring Festival Gala. Do you have anything that you know that you can share with us that combines cultures of these two?
I had great opportunities to engage myself in Chinese culture throughout this opportunity. It was definitely an unforgettable experience to me to participate in the Spring Festival Gala in 2011 and 2013 as well. I mainly chose it because to me, learning about Chinese culture, learning about Chinese language was never been a task. It was always a hobby to me. It was something which I found really interesting, and this is why I was trying to learn more and more about it.
What is the most difficult thing you encounter while trying to promote Hungary and Hungarian products here in China?
For example, as for the classical music, one difficulty is definitely going to be the different appreciation level of classical music, since it's Western classical music. China has always had its own roots and own genre of music and performing arts. This is why it's definitely a big challenge to make it more popular in China. And this is why this is what I wish to overcome by establishing collaboration with local, acknowledged and professional stakeholders and also artists, musicians.
Let's talk a bit about the other part of your business, which is tourism with a theme, and you have chosen wine as the theme of the touristic products you offer. What's the feedback in this regard so far?
I believe that there's a growing demand for themed tourism packages, mainly in the region of the Central and Eastern European countries. Since the last year, 2016, altogether we have arranged around 2 to 3 groups every single month for the high season of Hungary. So if we calculate 2 or 3 groups per month and 8 to 12 people per group, then we can say that we have organized around 200 people to visit Hungary and its wine cellars and vineyards.
Mm-hmm. Are you the only service provider in this regard so far, or Do you have much competition?
I think regarding themed tourism in the Central and Eastern European countries region, there is not a big competition. There might be many competitors who offer general tourism services, but here we wouldn't like to emphasize the tourism service itself, however, a certain industry. For example, we support our partner to create a reliable and a professional profile for their wines, and in order to reflect their quality.
What do you want to achieve through tourism, through bringing classical music, Hungarian classical music to China? Because all of these are things that you can't touch. You know, it's not like a railroad, it's not like shipping that you can see, you can feel.
It's not easy to grab on these two fields.
Yeah, why do you think this is important?
Because it's going to stimulate the mutual understanding between the people of these countries. A lot of people, as I mentioned before, they have no opportunity to travel to such a faraway country. But if we manage to deliver cultural products to them in a form which is consumable for the local consumers, the audiences, they have the chance to get closer to my culture, to Hungary's culture. And possibly in the future, if we manage to expand our operations, we can also focus not only on Hungary and China cooperation, but also cooperation between China and the whole Sikh region, the Central and Eastern European countries.
Is there a story that impressed you the most while you're doing these cultural, cross-cultural exchanges that you might want to share with us?
The need for hot water.
The need for hot water.
This is surprising for those expats who are living here in China and they are arriving here the first time, and also for those restaurants and restaurant owners who encounter Chinese tourists the first time. But since we have been experiencing a major growth in tourism from China in Hungary, most of the cooperation partners, restaurants and restaurant owners, they know already about this custom as well.
Because the Chinese people need to drink hot water and nothing else, just hot water.
If you have a sore throat, drink hot water. If you are feeling dizzy, if you are having headaches, drink hot water. If you have a pain in your arm, drink hot water. a lot of situations can.
Yeah. What do the Hungarian people think of when you mention China? What is the most obvious stereotypes? What do you think?
I think overall the image of China in Hungary is, in general, it's positive. Mm-hmm. And of course,
any negative
China,
things?
I think it's rather uncertainty.
When you mention uncertainty, you mean that they do not understand us. They do not know how we conduct ourselves, how we do things. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay. How do you think we can change that?
For example, by organizing more and more bilateral and multilateral cultural events. Culture is a very significant tool, actually, for it's soft power. It's soft power for a country. It can portray itself, it can present itself to another country's people.
How do you see your business develop in the next couple of years? What is your goal?
We would like to diversify the destinations too. As of now, we've been mainly focusing on Hungary and for a small part of Austria as well, Vienna, but we would like to expand the operations to the neighboring countries too, because I think Hungary can play a major role in people-to-people relations between China and Europe. In the past years, it's been receiving more and more tourists, and due to its advantages, including unique culture, language, natural and cultural heritage, and due to its geographical location, I think it can be a bridge. It can have a bridge function between China and Europe.
Well, I know what I'm going to ask. It has very little to do with culture and soft power, but indeed it's one of the how should I say, sensitive issue concerning China's cooperation with Hungary on the One Belt, One Road, which is this railway linking Budapest and Belgrade. Now, the European Union has said that Hungary in particular broke some rules in terms of undertaking such a huge project, that it needs to be that needs to make a public offer. What do you think of this kind of obstacle? And when China is trying to promote One Belt, One Road in the future, how can these kind of regulatory hurdles be overcome in your eyes?
I believe that China has a major experience and major knowledge in railways. I think this is a fact. So I have no idea how the project is going to end eventually, but I think it would definitely make contributions to closing the gap between Eastern Europe and Western Europe. A lot of people assume, a lot of researchers and also a lot of different countries' governments are worried about the threat that China's presence might, for example, cause difficulties for European integration. But I think, if anything, it's going to boost it. It's going to boost it by building out a well-working, effective infrastructure, which is going to, in return, boost the economy as well of the region. And by this, we can speed up the gap. We can speed up to close the gap between these two regions.